Scott Null is a good friend of mine. Scott does a lot of writing, and I really like his articles, so when I was putting together our DOA media events, I wanted to include Scott. So the first time Scott came to one of our events, it was in Florida. Him and his wife Camille showed up. They had a great time. We hung out, we became really tight. And then as we progressed and started doing things in Texas, it was just natural to include Scott in those. And so we just been working together over the years and have always talked about, well, Scott has always talked about, hey, come to Port O'Connor, fish with me, see my fishery. So I was really excited to finally get out there and check out where Scott lives and get a little taste of his fishery. I'm glad I finally made it out here. We're able to get together. We've been talking about it for years.
We've been talking about this probably 10, 15 years, me and you getting together and fishing on here.
Yeah.
It's been fun, fishing the DOA events all over the country, but get you on my home water for a little bit and let's see what we can do.
Yeah. I was telling
the Sabine.
We were talking on the way out here, we were talking about how, we met at, I think, the Houston Fishing Show.
Probably.
Just randomly, there working. Hit it up, start talking about our events. You start showing up, and next thing you know, it's a family affair. We're all over the country doing our thing, and those relationships are awesome.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect that first time Mark asked me to go over to Stewart on one of the DOA events, and me and Camille worked it out and came over for that one. And immediately, I just felt like I knew everybody, even though I didn't know anybody.
That's what I tell everybody. They're like, oh, so what do I need to bring? What do I need to do? I'm like, look, just show up.
Show up.
And we're gonna have a blast. So what are you thinking? What are we gonna get into today?
Well, we're gonna go check out some redfish. I've been on them the last few days. The full moon's got us a little bit messed up. The feeding times are a little screwed up. But 2 days ago, they were all over it. Yesterday, they were a little picky. But we're gonna be up in some real shallow water, just poling along, sight casting, just kind of show you around the area and let you get a feel for it. It has the same kind of feel as some of the Florida places, but we don't have the big mangroves. We got short mangroves.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's go do it.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yesterday when we were young and free, thinking back on the good old days, thinking of you and me. Bring back my yesterday and how we used to be.
I've been coming to Texas for a long time. I've fished a lot of different places, but I've really never had the opportunity to fish Port O'Connor. And I know it's really known for wade fishing, which I love, but today we're going to be fishing on Scott's skiff, doing some poling, trying to do some sight fishing, so we'll see what we can get into. More trout than I've caught in Stewart in 6 months right here, Scott.
The whole Port O'Connor area is really known more for wade fishing than it is anything else. Growing up, that's what I did here. We'd show up. We had deeper watering boats for one thing, and we'd run those deeper boats up onto the edge of the flat and just get out and start wading. And that's what most everybody does. If you're out here on a weekend, that's what you're gonna see is every 200, 300 yards down the shoreline, there's gonna be boats, 3 or 4 guys out wading. They all wade out up to here, and they're mostly trout fishermen. And so I'm concentrating on redfish, and I just pole along behind them. I'm not interrupting them, I'm not disturbing them in any way, and they're really not interested in the redfish that are up on the shallows anyway. Plus, this style of boat, I can get back into places where there's no boat traffic, where nobody's hanging out, softer bottoms, so you don't have the wade fishermen back there. Places like we were this morning, you wouldn't want to wade in there because it's got a lot of soft mud and there's oyster shells mixed in with it. It's real easy to get cut up if you hop out of the boat back there. So being in this, I call it wade fishing with a boat. I'm from the Houston area. I was a Houston police officer for 22 years and worked in homicide. My sanity was coming out and going fishing all the time, and fishing and hunting, you know, what kept me going through all that. And then over time, started coming more and more to Port O'Connor area and spending time here, sight fishing, picked up fly fishing. And as my career was winding down with the department, I got my captain's license and decided this was what I wanted to do. And so now I run a little guide service, just based off my name, Captain Scott Null. I do fly fishing, I do light tackle. I've got the Poland skiff here, this little Sabine, just picked up about a year ago. Awesome little boat for that. I've also got a big 23-foot Dargle Cat that I run the beachfront, run jetty trips.
One of the reasons that we would pole as opposed to get out of the boat and walk, we really didn't know exactly where the fish were going to be. We wanted to cover a fair amount of ground somewhat quickly. So it's shallow water. It's really not deep enough to run a trolling motor. So pushing along with that pole is silent. It allows you to get shallow. And Scott had an advantage being up high. So that gave him, a better angle into the water to see the fish that I may not quite be seeing.
Right there, he might.
Where is he in relation to that stick? I can't.
Straight out from the stick about 6 or 8 feet.
To me?
No, to me, more getting a little bit behind us now. He's still just sitting perfectly still, right there. Let it settle. There you go.
Ah, didn't like it.
He didn't like that. As we're going through those back areas, like this morning, that area that had all the mud and shell, I'm always trying to pole areas that have some structure on them, whether that structure be grass or shell. But also the fish, they kind of gravitate to one type of structure or another. It may be just a flat mud bottom, consider that as structure. Right now they're on mud up against the banks. The shrimp are starting to come out, the shrimp are maturing, and as they come out of the mangroves there, all those roots, we've had super high tides, and over the last week or so we've gotten some northers that have blown some of the water out. So now that the water's getting blown out, those shrimp are getting sucked out where the redfish can actually get to them. Over the past few weeks, they've been back there in the trees and it's been really hard fishing for them. But now those shrimp they're bedded down in that mud on those lower tides, and the reds are coming along rooting them out. So that's what we went back there to look for today.
There he goes.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Nice.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Good, man.
This is such a beautiful place.
Those DOA shrimp, man, that's what they're eating right now is the shrimp. And it's hard to beat having something that looks exactly like what they're feeding on.
I know it. This glow copper, I like that color. It's I throw it in dirtier water, cleaner water, water like this in between, like what we have going here.
Yep.
It's
a great little bait.
Yeah, it's good.
And I like that new 275. It's easier to sight cast for some of my guys.
It's a little bit heavier.
It's a little heavier.
A little bit smaller, falls a little faster.
Yep. It gets down in front of these fish.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have to lead them a little bit more with that 3-inch.
Yep.
Because it sinks so slow.
Yeah, because it sinks slow.
The 275 is like, it's performance, it's just straight to the bottom.
All my fish are, rooting the bottom along those edges.
Well,
just
let's
like
let
this
them
one was.
Go catch another one. That was awesome. Thank you, Scott.
Cool. One of the biggest questions I get from customers is just about knots, believe it or not. Everybody shows up and they'll have something tied on, and I look at it and they've got some goofy knot, where it's really tight, snugged up on there. I like to have a loop knot personally for flies and light tackle lures like these little DOA shrimp. It gives them more life, a little more action. I do a simple loop knot. It's just an overhand, slide it up through, slide it back through that overhand knot, leave it open, Slide it back through there like that. Suck it down a little bit. Tie another overhand up above it, however big you want that loop to be. Dead simple. Doesn't give me any problems, doesn't break off. I use that on 60-pound line for tarpon out on the beachfront. I'll use it on 12-pound line for this. It's just a really good, simple, basic knot. What I find is a lot of guys, the ones that don't show up with it tied on, they're almost afraid to tie their knot in front of me and have it on there. So we work on knots a lot while we're taking breaks. We're out fishing, doing our thing, and stop and have a little lunch break. We'll go through a little knot tying, how to tie on a leader, how to do anything like that. I encourage other guys to do that too. The more you teach people when they're out on your boat, the more likely they are to come back and fish with you again. That's something me and you've never talked about. What kind of knots do you like?
I keep them pretty simple. You know, I tie everything with a loop knot, of course. You know, and that's just a basic loop knot that I learned when I was probably 8 years old.
Yeah.
I can tie it in my sleep. And then my leader to mainline knot to that braid, I was tying that double uni, and I still do quite a bit, but then I tie kind of like a little hybrid looking knot. I'll show you later, that we kind of came up with. I like it because the braid really kind of wraps around the leader itself, so it displaces the load and it doesn't want to pinch down and cut it.
Similar to the FG knot then?
Similar, but it's a little bit easier to tie for me, probably because I've been tying it for many, many years. What's up, mullet? Can't resist that DOA, can you? There you go.
I had that happen about 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah. Every once in a while.
Every now and then you'll get a mullet. I don't know what they're thinking.
Well, it's deadly on anything, so. Ouch, wallets. Let go. See you. One cool thing we saw when we got back in there, in a couple of the ponds, but in this one particular pond, there was a couple really big black drum, which are super cool and exciting to see, but can oftentimes be hard to catch. I mean, I rolled that shrimp right in front of it, killed it, stopped it, and let it fall on his face, and he just kind of, it almost like he stared at it. I could see his eyes looking, and he didn't want anything to do with it. And then other times, you know, I've thrown and, you know, 6 casts in, he decides to eat at that time. It wasn't the case on this one, but it's always cool to see those big, giant black drum in that skinny water. That's a little trout.
A little trout.
That was a little trout thump on that DOA. I love it. That's like the best thump. I don't care how big they are, small.
You're just liking seeing trout.
I am. I'm loving seeing these trout. There you go. Nice red, baby.
Red.
All right.
Good red.
Boy, he was just sitting right off that little mangrove.
That's a big one there.
Yeah, he's got
Good
some
fish.
shoulders, buddy. Beautiful fish, too. Yeah.
That's the one we've been hunting.
Whoa, get out of here.
Under the boat like they all do.
Yep. Come on out.
I don't know why redfish insist on going under the boat every time.
That's like their signature. Oh. Here it comes.
Yeah, it's their signature move. He's not hooked real well.
Let's get him in the net.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's pretty. Look at those pec fins right there. Just beautiful.
That's a big, pretty healthy redfish there.
Ooh.
Nice.
That's a little better one. I love it.
Nice. Boy, he was just barely hooked.
Yeah, look at that.
I saw that the first time he came by, and I was like, oh man. Then he made that little run.
Ooh, just in that lip.
That's why we call them rubber lips.
Yes, sir. Get out of there. There it is. Copper matches his pec fins.
Pretty fish. Look at the blue on his tail and everything.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you, Scott. That was great. So we get into an area, and one thing I noticed right away is there was a ton of mullet. And one thing that I've learned over the years of traveling and fishing, if you can find big groups of mullet, you're probably gonna find fish. And particularly here, we're looking for redfish and trout. So there was so much bait that as we would push into these creeks, we were actually pushing the bait ahead of us. And it was big mullet, which I said, of course, you know, we see fish around those mullet schools, but it can kind of work against you too. If you push too hard, those mullet will really spook and run and spook off the fish that we're trying to catch. So it's kind of a delicate balance of easing along and gently nudging those mullet forward as you go. You really don't want to send them into panic mode, but they are going to move. And I was just trying to make my cast well ahead of that push of bait to maybe get to the fish before that push of mullet got to them and kind of clued them into what was going on. We were in the creek.
Nice little red.
The other one, looks like the other one. Feeding them these shrimp. There we go. Thank you. Yes, sir. Liking that copper crush.
In the fall, man. Shrimp's hard to beat.
Yeah, they're liking that shrimp. I guess they've been eating mullet for a while, right?
Yeah, all summer we have them feeding on mullet pretty good. This time of year, the shrimp start moving out of the bays with these fronts. And we've had such high water, the shrimp have been tucked way back up in these marshes and sitting in the mangroves. And last week we finally had that first good front that blows the water out for us. Around here, if we get a north-northwest wind, it'll blow a lot of the water down.
Because we were talking last week and you said it was super high.
Yeah, I was fishing some stuff that was, I mean, we were, like Dean, my buddy Dean calls it monkey fishing, because we were way back in the trees. We were having to fish the sand behind the mangroves.
So now they're seeing all this stuff get swept out of the grass, and it's real natural for them to see. And
so now all the shrimp's coming back out and doesn't have a place to hide anymore.
well, he was liking it, that's for sure. This is awesome.
Throw them what they're eating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Give them what they want.
Pretty simple pattern.
It was really great to get to Port O'Connor and fish with my buddy Scott and really let him show me how he fishes that fishery. Really awesome. And it was just great to reconnect and spend time with DOA family. After fishing, we got to go back to his place and hang out with his wife and visit. It's always fun reconnecting and spending time with friends and family all over the country.